Welcome to episode 218 of Sports Geek. On this week's episode, I chat about our exciting news entering the world of esports in the OPL for 2019.
Welcome to Sports Geek, the podcast built for sports digital and sports business professionals. And now, here's your host who one day soon wants to be an owner of an esports team, Sean Callanan.
Thanks, DJ Joel. Yes, my name is Sean Callanan, and you are listening to Sports Geek. For those of you who don't know, those intros that DJ Joel makes, I write them on a regular basis. Normally do it when I'm looking for something to do on an aeroplane with no Wi-Fi, and I write down different, what I hope are sometimes funny and sometimes prophetic intros for DJ Joel. And just for reference, I actually went back and checked when did I write that and when did I submit that to DJ Joel. That was way back in October 9, 2017. So I wrote that down 13 months ago and sent it to DJ Joel. And I'm really happy to say, standing here today, November 2018, as an owner of a League of Legends team in the Oceanic Pro League. So for this episode, that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about that process and how it's gone. And so just before we do get into that, if you're listening for the first time, if you're a League of Legends fan, player or coach or a fellow OPL owner, welcome. Welcome to the podcast. You can always contact me, Sean at sportsgeekhq.com will get me in the old-fashioned means of email, or if you would like, you can send me a tweet at Sean Callanan, that's SeanCallanan, or via SportsGeek. And as I've realised, Twitter is very active in the esports space, so I've learned the term and made sure my DMs are open. So if you want to send me a DM, more than happy to take questions. We're going to go through some of those questions later in this podcast. Before I kick off, and got a guest and a co-pilot for this episode, I just want to talk about the digital to dollars process. We're actually running a digital to dollars process full workshop with the AFL on November 16. If you're a digital, commercial, or a data executive that work at AFL club level, please get in touch. Hopefully we will see you on November 16, where we run through in a full one-day workshop the 5 pillars. And this is definitely part of our pitch for the OPL to Riot Games, because I'll be now running this process over the new OPL team. So it'll be about knowing your audience, knowing your content, knowing your distribution, knowing your valuation, and knowing your pitch to be able to help your team build awesome content and campaigns that will delight your fans and please your sponsors. So if you're interested in that, as I said, if you're already part of the AFL world, please contact me and we'd love to see you involved on November 16. Digitaltodollars.com. Well, that gets that out of the way. I didn't want to do this as a solo pod because this hasn't been a solo effort, and I want to introduce a good friend of mine I've known for a long time and who is going to be a future podcast guest, because this conversation won't do his long sports business career justice, but I wanted to invite him on this podcast because he's been on the journey. Andrew Walton, welcome to the podcast.
Sean, thanks for having me on podcast 218. 218,
yes. sportsgeekhq.com/218 if you want all the links and details of this episode. Before we get started, just to give people a bit of on this OPL story, just give people a bit of background on what your current role is, and I guess a little bit of your sports business experience.
Yeah, so my current role is the General Manager of Empower Sport, which is a division of Empower MSL. And this is a really appealing and exciting sort of path to go down, because we're wanting to progress our way with business intelligence and real-time analytics in the sports tech sector. And esports appears to be an amazing vehicle for that to happen, and not just here, but all over the world.
Yeah, so what we want to do here, so we're here now, full disclosure, we recorded this podcast yesterday, And even sports geeks have technical difficulties. So I think we recorded an absolutely brilliant 60-minute podcast and realised that the memory card was full at about the 25-minute mark. So rather than stitching them two together, we are now back here on a Saturday morning to record this. So what we want to do is go through, I guess, how we got started, how the process got started, how Andrew got involved, and how we started discussing it. So I guess the starting point is midway through September, I got a call from Daniel Ringland, who is for those who don't know, who haven't listened to the podcast, I've chatted with Daniel before. He's from Riot Games, Managing Director, if I'm getting that correct. I should make sure I know all these job titles soon.
I think Daniel's the country manager for OPL, so also the
Oceania region.
Oceania.
Correct. Mm-hmm. So Daniel gave me a call and said there is a spot available due to relegation, and there's a spot available in the OPL for next year. Can I help get the word out in the sports business community to see what who would be excited and want to apply for that position? Because they've obviously had successful entrance in Adelaide Football Club and Essendon Football Club being part of the OPL. So I said, yeah, no problems. I put out a blog post and reached out to a few people, and the conversation sort of went along the lines of, that's terrific. Is there a way that I can be involved? Because I've been talking to people over the past several years around it, and the pretty much answer was sure. I'd be happy for you to be someone that bids. So I think that's I think it was probably 11 o'clock in the morning. I think I was having that conversation, and I think later that afternoon we were already scheduled to have a call ourselves.
Yeah, we'd sort of started some regular dialogue in recent months because of, I suppose, the shift in myself into the Empower space and wanting to broaden things with sport, and calling upon the deep history that we'd had across so many different landscapes in the past, whether it be BBL, AFL, or
and sports business meetups and crossing paths at conferences and those kind of things. And so we were already having discussions around Sports Geek and what Empower does.
Yeah, and plus also recently we'd come together from a background with the Golf Business Forum.
Yep.
And my other role at Vic Sport, I'd asked you to be involved in some workshops there ahead. So
So we'd been working on a few different things, and so we were talking about, I guess, the sports technology space, a lot of the stuff that Empower does, and to figure out how we could work together. And then I sort of dropped a bombshell at the end of the phone call and said, "So Andrew, what's your take on esports, and is that something you are interested in?"
And the answer was fairly quickly yes, because it had been emerging and we'd sort of seen it around. And then in the background of my mind, I'd seen some activity with Empower overseas with some of our clients that had made a step into this space. So the threads were starting to emerge, Sean, and it made the conversation an easy one to flow from there.
Yeah, and so I'd previously worked with Empower on the golf side of the business, as you said, meeting a lot of the Empower team around the Golf Business Forum, where I was a keynote speaker a couple of years ago. But then learning more about the stadium and venue technology space that you're doing, and also in the analytics and business intelligence and membership side of the equation. So that's pretty much where our discussion was lying. And so there's a real excitement around the venue industry, amongst your clients, but then just the industry overall of, what is this esports thing? How do we get involved? What are the opportunities? And I guess that's some of the excitement that come from your side of the equation.
Yeah, correct. As we sort of move forward, as we received the bid documentation, if you like, and we started to plan what does a bid look like and what are the main things in there. And by combining our own experience and skills, I suppose, and visibility ahead where it could go, a lot of things, Sean, started to make a lot of sense. So it wasn't a difficult thing for us to find a rhythm in working out a way where this could actually happen. So we went and we put in a document.
Yeah, so from a process point of view, and we're not going to bore people with the backwards and forwards of iterations of Google Docs, which there was a lot, and multiple platforms and those kind of things. it was pretty much to a couple of key points. I think it was just before I put a lot of my dates around sporting events. So it was just before the preliminary final here in the AFL. I remember sending it off before heading out to see Collingwood versus Richmond, which is a proud point for me and a little bit of a sore point for Andrew being a Richmond man. But that's when we sent off, I guess, the stage 1 application.
Yes, we did. And just to keep it nice, though, we did the eve of the Richmond-Collingwood match, we did exchange gifts of some sort.
Yes. So that's, again, that was the first point of saying, hey, we're putting our hand up officially. And then the next point was the stage 2, which was the presentation, which was last Wednesday, which was presenting to the guys at Riot what our plan was.
Correct. And we had some, it was interesting sort of time of year because the AFL Grand Final, NRL Grand Final. So there's a lot of activity going around in the space. Start of a cricket season.
Yep.
So it's a very active spring.
And even in the US space, they call it sports equinox. I think all the pro sports were playing at the one time. So it's a real active time in the sports year round, Grand Final and those kind of periods. And so part of the preparation was we're producing this document. But then one of the things I said to Andrew, I said if we really want to be understanding this space, one thing that we really want to do and understand the gaming community and understand the esports community, I said we really have to attend PAX. I went to PAX last year as, I guess, part of my education into gaming and esports. And I asked Andrew if he'd ever been, and I said, because if you haven't, we have to go. We'll get to meet a lot of people, chat to a lot of different, I guess, people and part of the industry. It's a real eye-opener. So I've spoken about PAX before and obviously spoke about it with Nick Vanzetti when I recorded a podcast there. What was your initial impressions, Andrew?
PAX, PAX, an amazing event. And I suppose we're all familiar with the size of the convention centre, and there's a new extension to the convention centre.
Yep.
I'd never been to an event, Sean, that took up the whole premises. And the excitement on the Friday morning when I walked up to get my pass to get in, and the queue at the front door was lined up across the river, across the bridge, into Flinders Street, into Collins Street, and a great community coming together.
Yeah, and, I think it was one of the things that we said as we parked in one of the tabletop games and had some conversations around the OPL, was the inclusive nature and the real sense of community and camaraderie of the whole community from a gaming side of things, but then also the tighter one that was around the esports community where, there was some exhibition games and the like happening across the whole precinct.
Yeah, it was an amazing sort of visibility of technology of all sort, whether it be Pong or the old pinball machines to virtual reality, AI, Fortnite dance competitions. We're watching League of Legends compete on stage. We're meeting Frank from the chat. We're seeing all this sort of stuff unfold in front of our eyes in this amazing convention centre. Yet the thing which kept coming back to me, I suppose, is being the sense of togetherness in the community, no matter what age you were, whether you're a hardcore gamer, whether you're a hardcore cosplay, whether you're finding your own way, father, son, mother, daughters. It was all there. And it was
really good to, I guess, have some good chats with people in the space, whether they be part of the OPL. So we met some a few of the different people that are now will become our rivals. Like you briefly mentioned, I had a good chat to Frank from the Chiefs, and met some of the team from Order. Caught up with people we already knew, like Dave Harris from the Direwolves and Nathan Mott and the like. And so it was good to get a good feel for the community, and I think it held us in good stead for the pitch on Wednesday. The pitch itself was pretty much our plan. And from my point of view, there was a little bit of what we were asked is, why do we want to be part of esports? And I've spoken about that before and about the opportunity, and I even listed that when I told people there's the opportunity, and we'll go through that as part of our questions. Then we announced and talked to them about the different people that we're bringing as part of the group. I'm not going to go through all of them right now because they're going to be announced in good time. But some we've already spoken about, myself and Andrew and Empower. But one person I will mention is a good friend of mine who's been on the podcast previously. If you want to listen to myself and Steve Sammartino talk about the future of sports, and I'm pretty sure, and I because we sort of go on a lot of tangents when we get on a podcast, Steve and I. We probably did talk about esports if I go back into the archives, but I'm just looking across my desk. His latest book, The Lessons of School Forgot, How to Hack Your Way Through the Technology Revolution. Steve is one of the leading futurists and keynote speakers in Australia. And he's just got an absolute infectious energy and an entrepreneurial spirit. And it's people like Steve, or as I say, Sammer, as I call him, at Sammartino. If you want to send him a tweet, I'm contractually obligated to always mention his Twitter handle. So he's part of the group that is both based here in Australia, and we've also got some people that I've been able to connect with internationally, and obviously there's the same international ties with Empower.
Yeah, so as we've sort of gone through this journey so far, it's really limitless as to where it can go, and we've sort of been able to bring. I suppose one of the things with Riot on that final bid, it's fair to say that they were really keen to want to explore more about where we could help grow the ecosystem from the things that we knew, and also our ability in being able to work with strategic partners. So the AFL obviously are a strategic partner with Riot Games going ahead. And that was a consistent, I suppose, theme from Riot all the way through. And it made us sort of be comfortable in that we weren't trying to be something that we didn't really know well enough. And that, I think in the end, the bid became, it was just a really enjoyable process to go through. And we didn't have to reinvent anything. We were just like extending our own selves.
Yeah, and it very much was, you've sort of mentioned, ecosystem builder a few times. I like to pride myself, and that's what I've done as Sports Geek. For those who want, some history of Sports Geek, there's always a podcast for that. You can go back into the archives. There is a podcast called Sports Geek Origin Story. It's not as dark as Batman, but there's some good twists and turns in there. But I like to say when I started Sports Geek, professional teams, whether they be AFL or NRL or even the NBA, they had one person driving all of their digital assets. I often use the joke that Jeremy McPeak was running everything at the Phoenix Suns, and his Twitter handle was Suns Webmaster. I see a very similar resourcing and opportunity in esports, because now I'm seeing that now in the professional ranks, if I'm looking at AFL teams, they're looking at teams from 5, 6, 7 up to 15 that are producing content, telling stories, and those then drive revenue and opportunities as sponsors, and which is what I've built Digital Dollars with.
So we finished the pitch, and just a little bit of a dive into the business sort of process. We leave the pitch and we go, oh, how do we feel? How did it all go? And we sort of walked out, crossroad a cup of coffee, and we sort of felt, yeah, it's all okay. Yet generally a good telltale sign as to how it went was always asking, are there any more questions afterwards? And we knew that there was going to be a few areas that some more detail was required. So the good thing was that how long after we finished the pitch did the flow of information start to occur?
Yeah, so, after the pitch, we sent through all the presentation and our documentation around what our pitch was. Chris Schubert, or Belquin, as he's known in the League of Legends space, flicked me an email later that day, I think it was, as I was at the airport, saying, hey, is the time can we catch up just to discuss some things? So it's always good to get those questions. If you don't get those questions, it's a bit of a telltale sign when you're applying for something. We had a good chat the following day on the Thursday on running over some numbers and some ideas, and some of the assumptions were made as part of the document. And again, left that with a positive vibe, but still on tenterhooks to find out whether it was a yes or a no.
Yeah, because we were probably coming from, I suppose, we thought a long way back.
Again, it was a bit of an unknown. No, it's a bit of a long way back's probably one way of. It was a bit of an unknown because we didn't, a new space. It was a different process than potentially, say, pitching for a client or an agency pitch or a tender document, a tender process, which we've both sort of gone through. So there was a little bit of. Yeah, you didn't know what, and again, we're in horse racing season here. You didn't know where you were positioned because you couldn't look over and see where the other contenders were. You didn't know if you were at the back of the field or the front of the field. So it was just your own personal vibe.
Although full credit to Riot, they made the finish post highly visible.
Yes.
We weren't having to worry about how far away is this going to be, or is it going to be extended and we're going to go into the twilight zone of, is it going to happen or not? Which does happen quite often in the sports commercial space.
So we left it on Thursday, sort of hoping, and they said we're going to give you news pretty quickly, knowing that for the people who aren't in the League of Legends space and the esports space, just to give you some context of the timing, there's some really key dates looming. November 17, League of Origin Grand Final will be held here in Melbourne at Margaret Court Arena, just down the road from Sports Geek office. That's an event that's going to be run in conjunction with the AFL as part of their foray into esports and their partnership with Riot. And then the next part of it is November 20 is the signing period. So effectively, we're almost in the throes of what AFL or NBA fans would know as trade week or free agency signing period. So there was a lot of pressure to say, well, we need to. I think the conversation with Chris, I'll remember it. He goes, "Are you guys ready to run? Are you ready to go quickly?" And my answer was, "I'm stretching my hamstrings right now." So we knew as soon as we got the green light, it was going to be go, go, go. And so we got the official announcement on Monday, official word back from Riot, and then asked, then we said, okay, what's next steps? Can you please send through the owner manual? I said jokingly, and we said, what's the next steps from an announcement point of view? What do we need to do? So there's a bit of backwards and forwards on when the announcement should happen.
Yeah, so just for time, good week in Melbourne. So that's Monday before the Melbourne Cup. So the conversation with...
So for our international audience, the Melbourne Cup is the largest horse race in the Southern Hemisphere, if not the world. So it's a public holiday on the Tuesday in Melbourne. A lot of people take the Monday off. And so we said, we don't want to launch it or announce it on Monday before the Melbourne Cup because it's good news. It's Monday before the Melbourne Cup is when you release bad news because no one's at their desk and no one's reading papers. So we said we'd prefer it to be announced on Wednesday.
Yeah, on the Wednesday. So went through the onboarding process. We're able to put a plan in place for the next 7 days, 30 days and 100 days.
So we started that planning process. And then the next piece was I sort of started the Sports Geek engine and said, well, if we're going to start, we're starting from fan zero, which is exciting, scary at the same time because it's not like we're sending something out to a fan base. So I set up a new oplteam.com.au, and so at the moment that's where we're sending everybody. New oplteam.com.au, and asking everyone who wants to be interested and wants to be part of the journey to sign up there. And because we want your feedback on what we're going to do.
And thanks to all those who've made contact that way already. It's been really, really encouraging to see that flowing through.
Yeah. So the announcement went out on Wednesday. It got tweeted by the OPL. If you're not following the OPL, at OPL, please do so. It tweeted out on Wednesday night. Started getting people tweeting me, asking questions. As I said before, sending me DMs, asking me and congratulating me.
Yep, and really strong interaction from the other teams and the owners, and
correct,
and other people in the ecosystem. Snowball, Andrew Ray gave us some good.
Yes, we appreciate Andrew and his team at Snowball Esports who do a fine job covering esports overall, but also League of Legends. So I did an interview with Isaac that went out on the Snowball channels, and I completely agree. All the feedback and the tweets and texts and messages from a lot of the team owners, some that I've known and some that I've only briefly met, was really good.
And the other, just to finish off that, also proving what we sort of already felt was the interest is not just local.
Yep.
There was an interesting range of communications coming in from our friends around the globe, so which definitely suit where we want to sort of take this thing to.
Yeah, definitely. And so part of the opportunity now is we're now part of the OPL ecosystem. As I said, the League of Origin, which it kicked off on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just passed. And as you're listening to this, and the grand final will be on November 17 at Margaret Court Arena. We've actually got some double passes, so I tweeted out. Send in some questions. I know there are questions. I've been taking questions and answering questions via Twitter and via Twitter DMs and via emails. So thank you for the people that did send in their questions. I'm going to kick it off, Andrew. John, whose Twitter handle is T_A_grit. He asked, every player has a story. Has there been much thought in whether you will tell this story and how? Will the Sports Geek franchise look to capitalise on a general deficiency in the market and create interesting content about their players? So first of all, John, thank you very much for your question. And the answer is a whole lot of thought. That's pretty much been the strategy of Sports Geek overall. And as I said before, with sports teams starting with content teams of one and building out, that's all been around storytelling and telling the story of the players and making them heroes.
Yeah, and we want the players to become heroes and to be able to be heard, to be seen, yet not just focus on the playing side of things. There's so much interesting backstory to where so many of the players of all types come from, and we feel very strongly that through the content planned ahead, using all digital platforms available to us, we can help strengthen that profile overall and really let people become deeply connected to the team and everybody around it.
Yeah, and the good thing is, I'll be definitely having a real strong digital approach and making sure that the players get the appropriate training. They'll be lucky enough to be working with me. I've worked and done training sessions with AFL players, NRL players, hockey, water polo, the Matildas and the Socceroos regularly in the lead up to World Cups. So they're going to get the same training from a digital point of view, and that will also help us tell the story via the players. The second, John asked the double question. He has two questions, and I like the other one. He also asks, esports an ever-evolving market, bringing new and interesting ideas to the forefront. What do you and Sports Geek intend to do differently from your contemporaries to attract interest in this new brand? So again, I think I've sort of mentioned it in the last answer, but I'll be absolutely doubling down on digital and making sure that we're using all of the platforms that are available. I'm really excited to be able to I've already been talking to the guys at Twitch about how we can leverage and use Twitch as a platform, as a team, and how the players can use Twitch more effectively. I'll be definitely doubling down on everything digital.
Well, and also here we are, podcast 218, and we're actually investing our time into talking about the experience so far, yet also looking ahead as the sport technology partner in Empower and where we fit overseas in the EPL space with many of the clubs, with Atletico Madrid in the European space. We're wanting to leverage off all those relationships that currently exist to be different into the ecosystem here.
Yeah, so so definitely from my point of view, digital will be the driver. Andrew, you've got our second double pass winner.
Yes, Caitlin. So Caitlin's Twitter handle is @thecaitlin. That's with a K, X, THEKATELYNX. She asks, physical sports build strong local community ties to engage fans and build regional pride. Esports teams usually aren't tied to a location. How can esports teams engage and build their fan base in a way that turns this restriction into an advantage?
That's a terrific question, Kate, because it's both a strength of esports in that it isn't tied to a location, but it is also a challenge. And if you can't get fans congregating around a certain asset, whether it be turning up to a stadium, which we can see the MCG from my office here. It's a cathedral when you attend that, and it brings that camaraderie. So, what we will be doing is looking at event strategies and working with venues around clubs, around the broadcast for game days, whether it be Friday game day or Saturday game day, to say how can we get our fans and how can we get opportunities to bring OPL fans together to have those connections. And so whether that is in Melbourne, which is my hometown and where I'm based, whether it's in Sydney, whether it's in Brisbane, wherever our fans might be, we'll be looking to build out opportunities to engage them with our event strategy. So the next one, and he's already got one mention. I don't know if he's getting paid per mention, but Andrew Ray. I do want to give him a special shout out. Andrew Ray from Snowball Esports did ask this question, but Andrew has also been a big part of my learning and understanding of esports. We've got a community called Sports Geek Nation. If you work in the world of sports or esports, you're welcome to join to share your experiences and learn from sports business executives around the world. Andrew was one of the first people that signed up and joined that community, and he was also the person that asked and nominated, can we have a channel for esports? And my response was, and this was a couple of years ago, I went, okay, sure, and because I was still understanding and learning the space, and it's been a real important part for my knowledge and understanding the esports and gaming community. So thank you, Andrew. He asked, when the Western Sydney Wanderers were formed, there were significant football groups and communities already established in Western Sydney. How do you tackle the same approach when in esports they're not so developed? So this one was part of our pitch, and we did reference the Western Sydney Wanderers as a best case study in the world of sports from a branding and developing a new team point of view.
Mm-hmm. Yet, looking a bit deeper about where we think we can take this and form that closer bond to our communities, really look at working closely with our coach, our general manager, our playing roster, understanding their community better and how they've evolved so far, and having them come along as part of the journey to help us. What should our colours be? What should our logo? Where should our name sort of flow? And really not see it being as a top-down approach.
And so definitely that's why we set up newoplteam.com.au. Anyone who signs up there will have some say. We'll be sending out surveys. We'll ask you questions. Hopefully it doesn't end up like iVegemite 2.0, which is a notorious poorly run crowdfunding or crowdsourced, I should say, for ideas. But we'll definitely be using our players to get them to tweet out for feedback and those kind of things, because they're the ones that have got the fans. At the moment, we don't have any, but we'll be using, I guess, those different opportunities and avenues to help us form what the team might be.
The other thing, too, I suppose, we also bring, again, just to look back at the previous question about something different, is Sports Geek Nation.
Yep.
Which is giving us a good channel into the community in a whole range of areas.
Yeah, and a wide experience base from people in the EPL, the English Premier League, to people in the US sports scene, in the NBA, in the NFL and NHL, and the feedback from them early on in saying, "Hey, we've got a team," has been terrific. So it'd be great. So the next one, Andrew,
yes,
from Josh. Did you want to read out Josh's question?
Yes, so that's Josh at Josh F123. We know it's early stages at this point, but which of the OPL teams would you consider your biggest rival thus far?
I think here we are at, I guess, day 4 or day 5. Again, they're starting to blur. Rival teams hasn't been high on the agenda, but it is an important point. And I think rivalries are super important for a league. They are what drive leagues, whether it be El Clasico with Barcelona and Real Madrid, whether it be the Boston Celtics and the LA Lakers in the NBA, whether it be Essendon and Collingwood or Richmond and Collingwood. Those kind of they are the pillars of a successful league.
Yeah, well, that's one thing which definitely the AFL understand very well, is the passion that comes from rivalry between the tribes when they come together.
Completely. And so for me, rivalries form, and I'll put my hand up as a long-time Detroit Pistons fan, I still have a rivalry with the Chicago Bulls when they were fighting against Michael Jordan. So, I understand rivalries, and so for me, they start from a personal connection. And so from my point of view, I have a personal connection with some of the teams already. I'm really looking forward to taking on Legacy, as I've been a long time. I've been working with the Adelaide Crows from a sports geek point of view for many years, and Nigel Smart is obviously head of all things esports at the Crows. So I'm looking forward to taking on Legacy with my new team. I'm sure they'll produce some good banter and some dinners on the line, I guess. And then additionally, if I'm also looking at people I know in the space and very thankful for, to know Nathan Mott and Dave Harris, who are the benchmark in the OPL, winning the last 4 splits. So if we have a rivalry with the Direwolves, well, that tells me that we're doing something right. So they're the people that I know. And again, if I'm putting putting my Collingwood hat on as a Collingwood fan that goes to the MCG. I've got a long history of going to Anzac Day and facing the Bombers, and now I get to face the Bombers in the OPL. So they're the history I've got currently as personally. But I'm really looking forward to developing rivalries with all of the teams.
And we'll also be interested in learning from our players as they come onto our roster and understanding the rivalries that they may already have in place from their competition so far, not just here, yet anywhere in the world.
And that's where I look at it and go, that's the opportunity, And I think, the guys at Snowball have been doing a whole bunch of bias much series around the League of Origin and sort of getting that banter and backwards and forwards happening. So, definitely our players will drive it. So great question, Josh. I'm really looking forward to building out rivalries with all the teams. And so the last question, one of the other questions we've got is from Combat Owl, Pascal on Twitter. I don't know if I call you Combat or Owl. I'm going to call you Combat. Your question is the audience of purely gamers sufficient to sustain the esports industry? With the right content strategy, can traditional sports fans be educated and enticed into supporting and appreciating this glorious esport?
Maybe just to open that up, Sean, we can already reflect upon research that the Crows did before Legacy started and the AFL have done about their existing member and fan base and how they have an interest in gaming of some sort. Can you recall?
Yeah, so I think, hopefully I'm getting these stats right, but I think it was like 70% of fans of the OPL have some sort of additional association with, say, an AFL or an NRL team. So there's already, hey, I'm a Collingwood fan, I follow the OPL, or I'm a Rabbitohs fan and I follow the OPL. So there's already a bit of overlap there. But back to the first question around are purely games sufficient to sustain the esports industry? So the answer from me is a big yes.
Well, the evidence is already there because at the start of the year we saw Newzoo, as a subject matter expert, put out an industry report. And here we are now getting towards the end of the year and we're seeing the PwCs and the Ernst & Youngs and the KPMGs coming in with, their sports ecosystem now includes esports. It's not just all Juventus and those sorts of things.
Yeah, so PAX is a good example. Gaming as an industry is massive. Esports sits obviously inside that. The other side of your question is can traditional sports fans be educated and enticed? So my answer to that is definitely yes. Again, going back to Caitlin's point around events, I think there's an opportunity for people to be congregating in bars, turning up to support their teams, those kind of things. So I think that eventually they can be educated and come across, and that will be partly the content piece and the story, but it's not really the driving force. So I think the starting point is, getting started. I think you've got one. So before we get to the last question, so they're the ones, and we'll be sending you a double pass. If you haven't got tickets to League of Origin, please do so, especially if you're in Melbourne. If you want to experience an esports event, I'll be sharing out some links for some discount deals and those kind of things. So follow me at Sean Callanan. I'll be sending them out. I did get a couple of questions anonymously. And I'm happy to take them on board. I'm not going to name names here, but did get a few ones that were, are you a front? So there was a little bit of chatter of, what is this group? Who is this sports guy? Never heard of him. Where are they from? And so I'm going to answer these. And like I said earlier, DMs are open. Happy to answer them publicly or privately. So I'm going to answer these 4 questions that were posed. Are you a front for a group of gamers? No. So we're not. We're looking forward to engaging the community, but no, we are not a front for a group of gamers. Are you a front for a group of casters?
No.
So it's also a no. But we are also looking forward to engaging the casters and the streaming community to see how they will work with our team. But at the moment, if I'm looking at my management team, there's no gamers or casters in that group. Then the next one was, and I've had this a couple of times, not only anonymously, but it's also been like the first or second question when I've told people, are you a front for an AFL or NRL team?
No.
So the answer is no. So, so I guess that answers the casters, gamers, AFL, NRL team or any other entity. So the answer is no. But that said, we'll be looking for opportunities and partnerships and all of the like around all of those opportunities. But at the moment, hand on heart. Again, you can't see that in a podcast setting. We're not a front for anything. It's me standing here in front of you. So the last one, which we were going to send a double pass to, Andrew, I think it was something around recruitment.
Oh yes, because one of the exciting parts about stepping into this space is we have to have a team.
Yes,
and around the team you have to have a recruiting strategy, which involves the GM, the coach, and support staff, and then the actual players. And this question came from Ellis Longhurst at Bicyc Ellis. Hey, Sean, I heard you might be looking for someone to play in the mid lane.
Yes.
Faker, exclamation mark.
Yeah, so she then links to an article on ESPN about Faker. For those who aren't familiar with the esports scene and the League of Legends scene, Faker is a famous and probably known as the best player in the game, and he's promising to get back to the Worlds and win. So, we'll be most of the esports operations and recruitment will be handled by our GM and coach. If he wants to talk to Faker, and if Faker wants to talk to us, we'd be delighted to. But it would be effectively the same as Melbourne United signing LeBron James, I think. So, but I do enjoy the banter and the backwards and forwards. So thank you very much for the people that did tweet in. I really do appreciate it. As I said, at Sean Callanan, you can ask me a question at Andrew Walton X to send you one. Really looking forward to the process going forward. Go to newoplteam.com.au for more. Anything else from you, Andrew, to close?
Thanks to those listening to us today, and hopefully we've shed some light inside what esports is doing and where it's going. And hopefully we'll be able to keep producing more content ahead that you'll be able to listen in, watch, read, engage, hear, and let us all make it better together.
New workshops on audience, content, distribution, valuation, and pitch following Sports Geek's Digital to Dollars process. Go to digitaltodollars.com.
Thanks again to Andrew Walton for joining me on today's podcast. And as you just heard there, digitaltodollars.com will be a big part of the process for our new OPL team. If you're part of the AFL and you want to be part of the workshop on November 16, please get in touch. I'm looking forward to catching up with people there. Additionally, if you are looking for athlete digital training, please get in touch. We're currently putting together the program and setting up some dates and times around training camps and those kind of things for AFL and NRL teams to make sure that gets in as part of their pre-season. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the esports twist is in the space as we start looking at and training players. So if you're interested in that, simply go to sportsgeekhq.com/social media athlete training or send me an email, sean@sportsgeekhq.com. And additionally, you would have heard a couple of times there mentioning of Sports Geek Nation. SportsGeekNation.com is an online community of sports executives that will be now welcoming esports executives as well, to the ones that are already in there. Very thankful that my guest today, Andrew Walton, is one of the foundation members. You can go to sportsgeeknation.com to join. Until next episode, I will talk to you all on Twitter as you slide into my now open DMs. My name is Sean Callanan, and you've been listening to Sports Geek.
Join Sports Geek Nation access to exclusive Slack and Facebook groups with regular Q&A sessions with Sean Callanan. Go to sportsgeeknation.com to join. Need help with your digital rate card? Not sure how to price your assets? Is there a disconnect between digital and commercial? That is where Sean works best, in digital divorce counselor mode. Book a time for a call with Sean to discuss the Sports Geek process. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/phone call.
Go to sportsgeekhq.com for more sports digital marketing resources.